Hi people out there, we're glad you're watching us. Welcome to the interview of experts of the Cradle to Cradle Building and Architecture Alliance. As a network platform, we are willing to make Cradle to Cradle to a matter of course in the building sector. We are looking forward to talking to Hein van Tuijl from the BAMB project and Managing Director of EPEA Netherlands. Nice to have you here. You're working on the development of cradle-to-cradle solutions along the entire value creation chain in the building sector. Why did you decide to exceed sustainability in the building context and go cradle-to-cradle?
Well, of course, running an EPEA office and being at the very core of the cradle-to-cradle principle, it's always our aim to go beyond sustainability and work towards positive impacts. So that is always our main objective in any project we do. And the project might be with a manufacturer of a building material, or it might be with, for instance, a city that wants to develop a cradle-to-cradle city hall, and anything in between. So our key objective is always to realize positive impacts.
The BAMB project, Building as Material Banks, deals with material passports. Which benefit does a material passport have, and how does it support the cradle-to-cradle ideology in the building sector?
That's a very good question. The BAMB project is developing a platform, an online platform that is accessible to all stakeholders in the building value chain. And the reason we need a platform to connect all of these stakeholders is because there's a huge information gap. Next users of materials or products are very often not informed about the circular properties of a material or the beneficial functions of a material. And we need to activate all of these stakeholders to realize the full potential of circular materials. So that's why we started this project at the European level, because we really want to work also towards standardization and create one place, one platform, the one-stop shop to connect all these stakeholders in the value chain and give them all the information they need to really make the next steps in the circular transition of the building sector.
And how does a uniform European or even worldwide standard of a material passport look like then?
We have 15 partners in the BAMB project. They're from 8 different countries. We have a stakeholder network of more than 300 companies, organizations, cities, etc. And with all of these people together, we're trying to develop this standard. Keeping in sight, of course, our main objective, to realize value, circular value. I think that's very important to mention. And also keeping in mind everyone's specific needs in this value chain.
Which potential has a connection between BAMB and BIM, so the building as material banks in a connection with building information modeling?
We're trying to integrate BIM solutions into the platform. So for instance, it's of course very helpful if you can extract information from BIM objects directly into a materials passports platform. But it's also very useful if we can extract information on, for instance, circularity of materials or the way how they promote design for disassembly, for instance, or reuse or clean indoor air or all of these things. If we can get that information out of the passports platform in a BIM-friendly environment.
Okay. Does an example of BAMB application exist yet? And if yes, how did it or how does it work?
EPEA has been working with passports as a tool for nearly 10 years, I would say. We recognized the need for data sharing in value chains quite early on in the Cradle projects. But more often than not, we were limited by the software capacity to really speed up that process of information sharing. And that's when the idea for a European project was basically born. Parallel to that, there were also other projects where passports or passports platforms were initiated, specifically in the Netherlands. It really took off. So we're now in a situation where there's some parallel developments on passports platforms, and we're actively trying to reach out to all of these developments to make sure we communicate and we work towards integration.
We are still not able to build perfectly cradle to cradle. That's why we, as a Cradle to Cradle Building and Architecture Alliance, want to foster the development of such a building. Therefore, we would like to ask you, where were your toughest challenges and how did you handle them? And what are your next steps?
The toughest challenge about realizing cradle to cradle in the built environment, I would say, in my experience, is that the built environment is still quite a conservative sector. And if we're trying to integrate a key cradle to cradle concept such as circularity into a very traditional environment that is very linear in its DNA, then that poses challenges in every step of our work.
And again, what are your next steps?
Well, one big next step is, of course, the Materials Passports platform. I think that will be a huge enabler downstream back to the manufacturers to say, hey, can you improve your products for circularity? Can you improve them for beneficial functions? Can you improve them for cradle to cradle? And also upstream, where it becomes a tool for architects and designers to get information to meet all of these cradle to cradle targets at the building level. So imagine a system where you can log in and search for building materials that support your work on healthy indoor environments or maximum residual value. So I think the Passports platform is definitely a thing to look out for. I'm very happy that we're piloting a proof of concept right now, and we're actively inviting participants, manufacturers, to upload their information about their products into the system, and we're going to connect that on a building level. So that's a big thing. And I'm also very curious to see what will be the spin-off of these great first cradle-to-cradle lighthouse projects in the Netherlands, because we did great stuff, but it's only the start. And I'm hoping that the industry will pick that up and will learn from what we already did and then take the next step and the next step and the next step.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. Thank you very much, Hein van Tuijl, for joining us today for this interview. We wish you all the best for your future. Last but not least, we want to give you the chance to give the audience some good advice that you would have liked to have at the beginning of your cradle-to-cradle path.
Wow. Well, first of all, this is my first time at the Cradle to Cradle Verein and the Cradle to Cradle Congress, and I'm completely surprised and overwhelmed by the positive atmosphere and the number of stakeholders present and the dialogue that's happening. So congratulations on your work, first of all. I think it's really great. And second of all, to answer your question, to get started on Cradle to Cradle, what helped me tremendously is the realization that the cradle-to-cradle transformation requires inputs on all levels. It's not just the manufacturers or the products that need to be cradle-to-cradle. It's also policy, it's also administration, it's also design, it's everything. So everyone can make use of the core of their talents and capacity to make a positive contribution to this transition. So I would motivate everyone to look deeply into what are their strengths and then to apply them in this cradle-to-cradle transition, and not be stuck on thinking about cradle-to-cradle solely in terms of closing material loops, because that's just one of the aspects.
Thank you very much.